blogger, freelancer, podcaster, producer, and overall creative. With this show, I really want to focus on creatives and bring their authentic self to life. How are they motivated to pursue their passions? What have been the struggles along the way? Does self-care play an important role in who they are today and how they connect with the creative flow? Bringing one's authentic self to the forefront is important in this world that we live in currently. Sharing your self-care, your tips, and how you stay on track for things without losing it completely is also important. Self-care is not talked about enough, and authenticity and self-care are what I like to highlight with my creatives, as well as getting to know them. So get ready for a fun and entertaining show. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get ready to meet this episode's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. As you see, we have a new guest with us on this side. My hands, I always mess up. So, Bruce, go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about who you are and introduce your story.
My name is Bruce Hornidge. I went over to the west coast of Vancouver Island, BC in 1967 to go logging to make money, of course. I was thinking of going to university. I shelved that plan because I liked the idea of the money. And in 1972, I trained as a power saw tree faller of the timber on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Married in 73. We fell afoul of the environmental protests that wanted to save the forests, stop cutting trees, and we had some minor protests through the 80s in 92, and in 93 was the big war in the woods of the demonstration in Clayoquot Sound. 800 people were arrested. The company made it another 4 years, and because of the regulations and the pressure to give up the forest in that region, terminated everybody and left. That's when I lost my job. I didn't handle that very well. Went security guard for a while and retired. I guess, and my wife became a United Church minister for a dozen years. And she retired, and we now live in Ontario in our son's garage, nice parent suite on the upper floor here. And we live there with them economically, can't lose, right?
Yeah, no. And you get to see the grandbabies on a regular basis. I mean,
yeah, they're, no longer babies. Time passes, like you said, and they're 13, 15, and the boys in Newfoundland are 12 and 14. So,
oh, man.
But
you're still pretty close to them, so that's a plus, right?
Yeah, they're lots of fun at this age when we see them. Yeah.
Nice. So tell me, what was it like when you sat down to create this lovely memoir of yours? Which you guys, you can see the cover and a quick blurb about the story here. But Bruce, what was it like for you when you sat down to write that?
I guess I suspected that things were going to get pretty rough as far as jobs and that. So the first paper I wrote was called The Nightmare. We went through the logging blockades for 4 months. Then there were other protests. They took their story to the government, and it looked like up and down we were going to lose our jobs, keep our jobs. We got promises all over the place. Then I wrote The Apocalypse, as the word implies. You start to realize things are going sour very quickly. Now, that might have been a rant and a wail. My editor friend said, how about we not fabricate, but I've written a lot of logging stories about tree falling and other issues. How about we make it a tree falling story? And that's what she did, and softened the other two papers, and we made this book called Loggerheads.
Ooh. So when you guys finally finished it and put it out there, what was that first initial feeling when it was done?
Exactly. It's done, and I wanted it to fly on its own, but of course you've got to merchandise and give it to a publisher editor, and she had counseled me to with Endless Sky Books and Mickey Mickelson as a publicist. Ed Willett was the publisher, and he liked the project book and took it on side to put it out there. Me, yeah, I want it out there, and not that I want to wash my hands of it, but you like to call it done, but there's still a lot of work to merchandise yet, and encourage people to get it and read it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say in the book is your favorite story? I know it's probably hard to kind of narrow it down to one, but what is maybe one event that stands out to you the most from your story?
Yeah. Originally, the last story in the book, I called it The Red-tailed Hawk. Now, I found a bird in a nest in one of the trees that I was supposed to fall in this work area, and it had two small birds. So I was thinking, it's a fair-sized bird, the hawk, so I'm not going to fall this tree. To me, it's, deserves an effort to save it. So I used all the techniques I could think of to try and make sure I didn't hit it or destroy it, and managed to save it. Now the foreman came along and said, fall that thing because it's a hazard to everybody else working around it. The crew still had to come in and pull all the logs away, but with the tree standing there, it would be a bit of a problem. Well, the contractor, I think if they asked him, he'd do it and ask his crew to try and save this tree, and they did. And I really, really feel good about the fact that that bird had a chance and its young had a chance. And the following winter, the tree blew down, and it would dissolve into the forest floor in decades. And I end it with it would be surrounded by new seedling trees, and that's the life continues. I thought it was a real pretty story, and the book ends with that one. I think that's my favorite because I got a lot of good comments from that one.
Yeah, and you did give those baby birds a chance to like go on and live,
Yeah.
even if it did fall. Like later, they were grown and out of it, so they got that chance to live. And then, like you said, the forest comes back to life, so to speak. That is
Yep.
very beautiful. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool. So does the story the book and all, does it have similar kind of revival of the forest tales in it too, on top of like going through the whole logging process? Because I know that's kind of something that logging companies tend to do, especially nowadays. They rebuild and grow new forest in place of what they tear down.
Yeah, we were again the late 60s, 70s, 80s. Protection of fish creeks became important. Building the roads with lots of culverts so you didn't have it all wash away. We got heavy rains in the wintertime. That tears the land apart. Replanting was a critical thing, and it still is. I wish they would make sure they do it lots to regrow forests because of oxygen, carbon exchange, and growth. People are all fired up about carbon and the dioxide in the air and climate change issues. And
Yeah.
I
With the
think it's
greenhouse
important
effect and everything. Yeah.
to grow trees. Yeah. And the use of the product, the wood, I disagreed with the butchery and the smashing of trees just to get them off the stump and down the hill and ready to pull out. You got to cut it into logs so they survive being hit by other logs, and they get easier to pull to the roadway, and they can throw it on the truck and take it right out of there. If you smash it up and have it run away, I've seen roadways where logs were stuck in the road 10 and 15 feet from being, so running away down there with terrific speed. And you'd had to cut those things off and waste that wood if you didn't dig it up to reclaim it. So I didn't disagree with the butchery, and that was one of the issues that was going on.
Man.
Mostly fish, though.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a dangerous job, though, moving all of these trees around.
Yeah, quite a high fatality rate as I joined logging in the 60s. For tree falling, it changed to a day rate system where you could take the time to figure things out better in 72 when I broke in. So falling was maybe 27 in BC fatal a year, just in the falling group. And after the day rate came in, it went to about half that. So it was a good progression there. But there are still fatalities in the bush from moving wood around, and there are stories, and it's all up here about how many guys did get lost in our particular division over the period from 67 to the end of my career in 98.
Were you ever involved in any accidents out there?
You have things happen that are happening so fast with the weight and the power. Again, you got to cope with it and call it a close call, and you got away with it. I don't know whether you want to bore you with it. I had a power saw in my two hands, and I hit something that had a very severe whip spring in it, and it tossed the power saw end up. It rotated in my left hand. I saw the bar right here. It took the glasses off my face and shot them 20 feet. It took me about 10 minutes to find the glasses, and they had a chip in the corners of the lens. Didn't touch my face. That's one of the
That is a miracle.
That's probably the scariest one, but there's lots of close calls. Yes.
That makes my heart race. Like just the fact that it came that close. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The wife, you come home, they know something happened during the day. You feel a little odd. I was a smoker, so I had a few extra cigarettes at those scary times.
Helps you like decompress from like almost losing part of your face by it, Oh man.
There were lots of other again, I could go on and on, but I was lucky. I was just mostly close calls. I had a bump in my leg that stood me up straight rather than crouched forward. It just hit me on the leg and pushed me back. But lots of guys had career-ending accidents or major accidents that cost them the use of something. One guy took a power saw cut here, which took the tendons around his elbow, and they had to fish him out, tie him back up. Another one was kicked back with the power saw that split his fingers here. They sewed it all up. He lost feeling in that end a bit.
Man.
I could go on and on, I guess.
I believe it. Gosh, because you out there, like you mentioned, anything could happen. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So with this story, and here we are now, do you think you'll write kind of like a sequel to it to put more stories from your past out there?
That's very possible. There are a lot. Over the years, I wrote a lot of stories about accidents, incidents of logging, position papers on various practices that were going on. I think I might do that. It loses sequel to as far as the story is concerned, it would just be a bunch of logging, falling stories, not necessarily a progression of one storyline.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you definitely are going to be working on some more then moving forward.
Yeah, that the other one, I have a hobby of Second World War studies. I'm impressed by heroism, heroic acts, people that receive medals of honor. Hacksaw Ridge, the movie, is an excellent presentation of a fella in the American Army who won Medal of Honor in a capacity as a first aid attendant, and very impressive story that one was.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 2 ideas for war stories anyway.
Ooh. Is there one thing in particular that inspired you to go ahead and put your thoughts down for these stories?
With logging, I wanted to try and get public to understand the logging process,
Mm-hmm.
the way we were doing things. Yeah, it looks like hell. It's a bit of a mess, but it's a harvesting system. So, and it hurt a lot to have everybody, or a lot of people anyway, down our throats about what we were doing. So I really wanted to express that in this book about logging. We have our problems. There were problems with logging methods, and we were trying to get those corrected. The system's a little slow, politicians and what the like, or they act the wrong way because they got the wrong information. I just wanted to try and get some truth out there about what's going on in our lives.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's like the industry? If I can not get tongue-tied, do you feel like the industry has changed a lot from when you were actively working to like current day?
Yes. Again, lots of the practices were corrected, and the regulations forced the companies to address those issues with fish creeks, proper use of the forest resource. Excuse me, old. So I think that part of it is one of the biggest changes. Again, they went to selection logging, falling individual trees, bigger ones through the other trees. I don't agree with it, but safety-wise, it's a load of laughs. Helicopter logging, you actually top the tree, and then you cut the bottom of the tree up and hold it with wedges. Helicopter comes along with side grapples, grabs the tree and rips it off the stump, and away it goes. Or in selection tree falling, you get the bigger ones down, and the helicopter lifts them straight up and out.
Wow.
Some of the changes, yeah.
I did not know they were using the helicopter stuff. That's really cool.
Very expensive, very big helicopters, the most powerful ones that they have for lifting the big guys. Smaller trees, of course, can be lifted with smaller helicopters, but the big helicopters, it's the one they call the flying beetle. Looks like a beetle coming along. It's a very powerful lift. Anyway, S-64 Sikorsky, I think, is a big helicopter, and it's also used for logging.
Wow. So with the anti-logging movement that took place, what were some of the things, I guess, that they argued about that you guys had to correct their information on, if that question makes sense?
I suppose we're going to get on to the last tree, the prospect of you're cutting it way too fast. To a certain extent, maybe we were, but BC's huge. There's still a heck of a pile of wood trees, old growth, and I don't care what they say about, they need to save more of it. That one hurt the most because there's lots of trees out there, and the concept of they want it all standing as old growth forest.
Mhm.
Well, we're here to harvest some things for our own use, and as long as you keep it regrowing by planting, every 100 to 200 years, you can have a rotation of trees. Uh, the safest method of doing that is to clear cut
Mhm.
everything down so that it's relatively safe for the guys that come after to go in there. If you start falling trees individually and you've got other trees standing up around them,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
quite a bit of a hazard. So I wanted to try and correct some of that wrong. And also Fish Creeks, we were protecting Fish Creeks. We had a machine for pulling trees away from Fish Creeks.
Mhm.
And our instructions as fallers were not to fall anything in the creek. So
Yeah.
those were good ideas. And cleaning Fish Creeks out if we happen to make them a mess or they find one that's damaged,
Mhm.
clean it up.
Oh. So you guys had regulations in place that was really like better for the environment around it,
Yeah.
and for safety reasons too. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, either it's workers' compensation board because they pay for injuries.
Mhm.
They want to see proper methods used, not just people that aren't trained. You got to make sure they're trained to start with, but that they're using the practices responsibly and doing it safely. Uh, yeah, mostly it would be the WCB regulations, Ministry of Forests, again, protection of Fish Creek, using all the fiber that's possible to be used out in the bush. Uh, make sure your roads are properly built and then properly deactivated after you're
Mhm.
finished using them, so that you return the hillside or wherever it is back to the natural form that it was. And they've got regulations for that too.
Nice. That's pretty awesome.
Mm.
Because that they are aware of the environment and trying to take care of it too.
Yep.
So with the story and getting everything down, did it take you a long time to go from those two stories you had written to finishing the entire book?
Again, I finished the two back in 1996. We had a training center thing when we were losing our jobs that had computers in it. So I started pounding away to do those two stories. But I sat on it for 30 years because I didn't figure anybody give a hoot. And that's probably the mistake. I should have put it out there right away. But you got to get a kind of an approval going on in your head that people like the stories, it's worth telling. And like my friend editor Jackie, uh, let's do this. Let's get that story out there and get this done. And she was very, very helpful. I can't thank her enough for her help on that. And
Nice.
Ed Willett, he liked the story, so I'm very happy with that too.
So they kind of helped motivate it and getting it going forward.
Yeah, yeah, it's easy to say those words, right? Just do it, move
Yes.
it, get her done, and all that sort of stuff. But in depending on which context, the company used that on me a lot. Get her done. Well,
Yeah. I feel like that was a very common saying in like my area of like Oklahoma, that get her done was it isn't used as much anymore, but it was on trucks and everything. And as Bruce and I were chatting before the show, I'm from an area of Oklahoma where they do a lot of clear cutting and trees with Weyerhaeuser. And but they do like regrow it and replant and stuff. And it's really cool to see the change over the years, how there's this huge like pine forest with all these animals and they clear cut it and then it grows back. It actually makes for some fun hunting areas too for you guys that like to hunt. So
Yeah.
but what was your writing routine like when you were really trying to get the story out? Because as a fellow author, I know sometimes we just like don't want to sit down and work on the manuscript.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, when do you pick it up and do it, work on it? Are there special times? Morning when you're fresh, afternoon when it's too damn hot outside to work, evenings perhaps after supper when you're feeling like, when does the production hit you to actually do it? um, I say 30 years. Well, there was lots of other things going on in my life over that period. So you mix it up with writing and editing and redoing. I write in longhand, so you got to write it so it's legible and figure out what you said after too.
Yeah, I get that. I write in cursive when I do longhand, and half the time I can't read it when I go back to look at it. So
I was a secretary for a lot of different groups during the 80s, and I took longhand notes and scratchings. And if I didn't do it within a week or two, I lost it. You had to do it from memory then. So,
yeah.
a bit of an aside there.
Yeah. Did you have to write down your stories at like a little bit at a time then to get it going, get the like thought process moving forward to where you could compile them together?
Yeah. Once you're feeling you memorize or remember something,
Mhm.
or a particular incident that comes across your mind that, gee, I remember doing that in another venue, write it down. A couple of forest fighters were killed in BC from trees that burned through and fell on them this last summer. Now, I was in a forest fire fighting back in '67, and I just finished climbing up on a bit of a rock bluff, small one. Just came to the crest of it when a tree burned through, and it was only, yay big, about a foot, I guess, on the stump, but it would have clobbered me pretty good if it had hit me, landed in front of me. So there's a similar story, and you can rationalize that it can happen in the bush more frequently, I guess, than it should with firefighters. So I can relate to that particular incident. Yeah. So,
Wow.
so it's just little things that nudge you to say, yeah, I can write something like that or about that, or maybe people can look at it from this point of view. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. So did you ever in the process of writing it have to deal with writer's block?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Another story. I was sitting at my computer and yeah, damn it, nothing's coming. So grab a coffee, a smoke, and you go out and sit in the front porch. And in the story, I wrote, the cursor is flashing in front of your eye.
Yeah.
And when I look down on the concrete pavement, there's this little spider coming across the pavement, concrete, coming towards. He's one of those little busybody ones, real small. And so I wrote a story about that and threatened him not to go into the house, because if he goes into the house, I'll kill you. But you're out here, I'm pretty well going to leave you alone. But so it spawned a little story, right? And there's so many things that are little incidents that can spawn these things. I have an idea for a murder story based on an event that happened in Campbell River, BC, before I went as a security guard in 1999. And that spawned a bit of a story of relating a security guard becoming aware of a murder and the nastiness of stuff behind it. I won't fudge tell you the details, but it's the idea that gets spawned in your head to write a story that'll hopefully cause people to think or look at that perspective.
Yeah.
So you
So,
might see that in the future.
yeah. So doing that little story like on the spider, did that kind of help break through the writing block
Yeah,
then?
yeah,
Oh, I like that. It kind of gave you a kind of creative palate cleanse, so to speak, sounds like.
yeah.
Ooh.
It's like I say, that sometimes it's the dumbest little things that can spawn a story, short story, or a longer one, or
Mhm.
whatever. Yeah.
So, do you think you'll write about your transition from working as a logger to becoming a security guard and the things that kind of like the emotions and I don't know, anything that came with that transition?
Yeah, that's why I say I did not handle losing the decision of my career, my life
Yeah.
was to be a faller till I was 55, and then I was going to do some other power saw work to 65, retire, happy.
Mhm.
That ended at 50 years old, so that was too early. I just
Yeah.
fell apart. I didn't handle it well. Grumpy. Uh, there's probably a lot of mental little reasons or definitions of what I was going through, but
Yeah.
uh, that was a nasty couple of years. Security guard's not the best thing in the world either, because you're dealing with people who think you're the lowest form of
Oh my gosh.
cop wannabe, I guess.
Ugh.
Yeah,
The
well,
disrespectful people.
you're dealing with people on a level where I'm asking them to be this way,
Mhm.
uh, uh, or they're doing something wrong at wherever the heck I'm at, like a mall or whatever. Uh, and I'm asking people to change what they're doing. Well, gee, they don't want to do that.
Mhm.
And how the heck are you going to force me to do that? Well, yeah. So that was a little bit of pressure, and fully retiring. Like I say, my wife became a minister, and I followed her career in BC.
Nice. And now you're here.
Yep.
Ah, I love it. Like, it sounds like it's been a pretty exciting life and adventure bringing this story to life then.
Yeah, if a person wants to write that story, it's an example of a life. If a person wants to say, and think about that, and they're not, they're no different than me, and they've got a life to lead and continue and try and do good things rather than nasty things or let crap happen.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, you want to sort of uh, not instruct, guide, or push a person on a path of good things rather than mull over the badness or whatever's going on.
Mm.
But
Nice.
it's not easy. It's kind of hard, and things that make you go, bad things, good things. I should write about them because we all experience different things differently.
We do. We do. Well, Bruce, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers where they can snag copies of your book.
Yeah, my publicist and my editor friend Ed Willett and Mickey Mickelson. Uh, that's through Endless Sky Books
Mhm.
is Ed Willett's uh, bailiwick. But the publicist, has also got a hold of uh, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Chapters Indigo, and your book, Stellar Local, should be able to access the books through their supply system. Yeah.
Ooh.
And I would like, lots of people to buy it, of course. But please read it and learn about one logger that went through something.
Yes. And you guys, I do have links to all of that in the description. You can snag a copy of his book in the description, as well as it links to Amazon, I believe is what I've got. But yeah, hit that like button, guys, while y'all are here, and subscribe if you haven't. Bruce, again, thank you so much.
Okay.
And remember, guys, to stay creative, and we'll, until next time, have a good rest of the day. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to get future notifications when shows come out. Also, be sure to check out my website. I have a blog featuring this creative with some other fun and interesting questions. You can also subscribe to my newsletter there to stay up to date with all things the Chapter Goddess in Madeline Dale. Once again, thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day.